10, 9, ignition sequence start. All engines are running.
Liftoff and the clock is starting.
Roger, the clock is operating. We're underway.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
And as we say goodbye to the Boys Club, it's time now for Kerbalcast, episode 39, Equal Opportunity Kerbal.
First sample ready for scan. Sending data back to you now. Are you reading?
And in our command module pilot seat, that's CMP.
Tromo.
I am your LMP, Lunar Module Pilot, Biff Aldrin. And coming up in today's program, meet Valentina Kerman. KSP gets its very first female kerbalnaut.
Giving Northstar a heart attack and bewildering Mitanpo, it's our progress in the game.
And this week's mission briefing, it's the latest letters, tweets, and also Kerbal news, and...
The Jeb has landed. It's the latest episode of A Kerbal Life by Amy Kettlewell.
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah.
The little soundbite that we just played,
Uh-huh.
You do realize that was in your honor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do appreciate that.
Where was that from?
Europa Report.
Right.
It took me a while to figure that one out.
Yeah. What since Kerbal, and we'll talk about this more in detail in a minute, but Kerbal has its very first female kerbalnaut.
Yeah.
And her name is Valentina Kerman, which is based on the first woman in space who was Soviet. And so I wanted the sound of a Russian astronaut.
Yeah, Russian female
which is
astronaut.
weirdly specific. Okay.
You gotta search that one out.
Yeah, just to tell you how bad the very first thing that I could, the only thing I was trying to think, okay, I need the sound of a Russian woman from a movie.
Yeah.
The only thing I can think of right at first was, are you ready? Xenia Onatopp from GoldenEye.
Oh, I was about to say, is it a Bond movie? But yeah.
And Austin Powers, Ivana Hump-a-Lot.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, both of those are like really bad examples.
Yeah, those kind of just take back the whole purpose of what we're talking about today.
Right. And also, when I listened, there were one of two things at all times. Either there was music going under it to the point where what they were saying was hard to pull out.
Yeah.
Or what they were saying was so wildly inappropriate.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So what I finally did was... I have one of our listeners, his username is Haywood Floyd, okay, from 2010 and also 2001 A Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
And he and I were chatting while I was trying to find all this, and I had typed into Google Russian women in movies. Well, actually, I typed in Russian women, and I got a lot of dating sites.
Yeah, some pretty good deals going on.
Yeah, and for a minute, what I considered briefly, because they have these Russian tutorial, these videos for how to date Russian women.
Yeah,
and I was thinking, oh, this would be good because there's this Russian woman and she's talking. The problem is there's like this Barry White romantic music playing under it.
Oh yeah.
And it was, how to ask Russian women about her partners. And it's like, oh, okay, we're not doing this one.
Yeah.
So anyway, I typed into Google, I said, Russian women in movies, and it pulled up a list on IMDb.
Oh.
First thing that was on the list was 2010, A Space Odyssey, and I almost used that.
Yeah.
I've been drinking your whiskey from Kentucky.
But I figured that's hard to understand.
Mm-hmm.
You've been drinking your whiskey from Kentucky.
Yeah.
And B, it still doesn't relate.
Yeah.
Okay, but 2010 was like the first movie on the list. And I scrolled down and I saw Europa Report, and that's where I got it.
Ah, there you go.
But I was trying to find this, and I had mentioned to Haywood Floyd that I was doing this, and about this time he goes, hey, check this out, and he sends me a link to the exact same IMDb page.
Oh.
Yeah, and it was like, I'm on that page.
Yeah. We are literally on the same page.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We are literally on the same page. So anyway.
Yeah, IMDb's got a list for pretty much everything.
Yeah, I never thought that they would have a list for Russian women in movies.
Yeah.
But, I mean, seriously, it's there.
Yeah. Somebody put that together.
Yeah, and there it was. But, yeah, so anyway, that's where I went, oh, that's right. Katya from Europa Report.
I mean, that movie just keeps on giving.
Yeah, and it's actually I've after pulling that soundbite out, I went back and I'm rewatching. I'm about halfway through it again. So
okay.
I'm readjusting my opinion.
Yeah.
It's better on a second viewing for me.
Oh, good.
I'm enjoying it more the second time.
Yeah, because the first time you had a hard time going in with the whole documentary style kind of stuff.
Yeah, the whole found footage.
Yeah.
I think part of that is when we were talking about it, when we did our review, and I can't even remember what episode it was, but it was several back.
Oh, yeah.
When we were doing our review of that, the whole found footage genre was still going full bore. Well, that's kind of fallen by the wayside now.
Yeah, I don't remember the last found footage movie that's come out.
Yeah, it was probably some Western.
Yeah. Some like medieval movie with found footage.
They found like a wooden VCR.
Yeah. It's because back whenever we were talking about it, like the next found footage movie was just around the corner.
Right.
You know, from the one that just finished.
Yeah.
Like it had a big surge there for a second.
Yeah.
And I think things like Cloverfield really gave it like a big boost for those just coming out constantly.
But see, now that found footage is kind of fallen by the wayside,
yeah,
and I'll admit, a lot of times with movies, sometimes if you don't like them the first time, it's you drag your own biases into it. Mm-hmm. So anyway. Well, I know that you have had some progress in the game because I saw you when I was on Steam and it popped up and it said Nostromo was playing Kerbal Space Program.
It's a miracle.
It's a miracle. And I thought, you know what? In the past, when I see you playing, I always go, like, hey, I want to watch.
Yeah,
It's like I thought, I'm going to leave the poor guy alone.
It turns out I've been sitting on the title screen for like days, just like, oh yeah, I'm playing, yeah.
And just to make sure the definition is correct, you're munching on a sandwich too.
Yeah, it's a sandwich time, man.
Is it sandwich time if you're actually sitting there, not doing anything but eating a sandwich?
Yeah. Because you're spending time with your sandwich. It's important to spend time with your sandwich.
Yeah, well, you don't want to neglect your sandwich.
You don't want to neglect. You don't want to just ignore the sandwich.
Your sandwich is an important part of your life.
Yeah, it's your sandwich.
Yeah.
Anyway,
everybody's looking for that special sandwich.
To go with the title on Bewildering Mitanpo, I played 2 times this week, and one of them it was like I was going to go to the game shop in like an hour or two, and like just play some board games up there. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll kill some time with some Kerbal, like I'll try to see what I can get done, see if I can complete a few contracts, get some money going. I get on there, and Mitanpo's like, hey, can I watch? And I'm like, yeah, it's going to
why not?
Let's see how this goes. And he's watching. And so last time I talked about building a rocket car to complete the contracts that were on the, like all the ones where I had to get EVAs on the ground, because I had to get a lot of little EVAs.
We have a letter about that, by the way.
Oh, yeah?
About the rocket car.
So I was building this thing, and it started off meaning well. It was like I basically built it like a dual pontoon boat.
Right.
Like there's a center part, and then there were 2, like it was just kind of split in half or into 2 tubes, and that's what the wheels are. So it had a larger surface area, so it was like less likely to flip. And I got it going the first time. I had a little wings on it on the top to steer it. And I was like, I wonder how the brakes work. And I hit the brakes while I was going to like, they're like just emergency brakes. They're not just like you ease on the brake.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah. And so,
like, whap.
Yeah. And so I hit the brake, the thing flipped over and it blew up. I was like, okay, let's go again. So I built it again and I get going.
It's Kerbal Ball Run here.
And I was hitting, I did exactly what we talked about last time.
What?
I was hitting Shift Tab so I could talk to Mitanpo.
Oh, okay.
And I kept throttling up, and so whenever I got back, I was going faster. I was like, and then like I would flip over a hill and it'd blow up, and I was like, oh man, he's really wondering how I ended up doing a podcast about this. And so I try again, and I start driving, and he's like, this is going to take forever. You sure you don't want to fly? And I was like, I don't know how to fly.
Yeah.
I don't know how to land. I know how to fly. I don't know how to land. Maybe if I build something with so many wheels it's so wide it just can't help but land, a part of it will make it. Maybe that's what I need to do.
Oh, I have a feeling the game's going to put that to the test.
Yeah, so I was cruising around with that, and then I saw that he got on the game, so I was willing to bet. He was like, I can't take this anymore. I gotta see something right done in this game. But that was the first time, my first play session. Oh, and then I don't know if he was there for it, but I had the like most haphazard but successful Mun orbit I'd ever done.
You've just described a lot of Kerbal gameplay right there. Haphazard, but surprisingly successful.
I was like, all right, I'm about to leave. I have all my stuff packed up. I'm about to go. I'm going to try to make just a slingshot around the mun and get some mun science real quick. I just want to see if I could do it.
Right.
So I build the rocket, and it had been so long since I tried to go to the mun because I've been spent so long in contract purgatory that I haven't been able to go and do anything else. So I launch, and I have my command pod and everything. I didn't send a probe because probes are just awful right now.
Right.
In career mode, you don't get SAS. You need an SAS module to do it. So
oh, really?
Yeah. So in the beginning, probes they're not good.
Well, it's like wrestling a wild animal.
Yeah, and I'll get to that in a second. So, ooh, yeah. So,
now I'm intrigued.
I launched this thing and I get it, and it'd been so long since I can build maneuver nodes now and stuff. So I built maneuver node, but it'd been so long since I'd done any of this. So it was 20,000 meters. Whenever I remembered, oh wait, I need to start tilting my orbit. Whenever I was in the air,
right?
So I started tilting, and then I get up there to the maneuver node, and I'm like, okay, I need to burn half of it until I get just near the end, and then burn the other half. And I kind of forgot about that, and I burnt all of it. So my orbit was way different than how it was supposed to look. And then this thing, I do one orbit, one huge. Oval orbit around and I do one or two of those, and then I catch a mun encounter. I get that, and I'm at so little fuel, it's insane. It's just so bad.
Right.
But I get around it. I do my science or whatever, and it completes part of the mun contract, which was nice. And then I slingshot back, but I have just barely enough fuel, so I hit that little bit of fuel, and it got me some air braking. And then I air braked my way down. But the entire time I was like, oops. Well, let's try this. Oops. Oh, let's try this. Oops. Oh, hey, it worked. I totally meant to do all that. Then made it back down, and I got some decent science. The second time I played, I tried to complete some contracts and stuff, and got a couple of them done. And then I was like, I'm going to send a probe just around the mun, And so I launched the probe, and I realized it didn't have SAS. So I'm wrestling this thing the entire time, like just trying to keep on a maneuver node. I'm just constantly with all the keys, just trying to keep it centered.
Is that what your keyboard sounds like?
It's on a machine keyboard, but I hit the buttons really hard.
Okay.
And so I'm flying around, and eventually I get an orbit made, but I don't really have any science modules on it. I have a thermometer just because, but I can't take
a thermometer just because.
Just because I can't take any. I can't take any temperature readings while in
Brought
space.
to you by the Thermometer Association.
So I just took one. I took one whenever I was just I hadn't taken any thermometer readings on Kerbin, so I did one before I left, and then I launched the thing. And I can't do any in space, so it's kind of useless right now. I don't really have anything on it, but I got the orbit part of the contract done.
Okay.
So all that's left is landing and transmitting science from the surface.
Okay.
So, yeah, that was kind of my progress. So Mitanpo, you happened to tune in during what was pretty much
the worst part.
Yeah, which is kind of like rolly time. Any time I decide to build something stupid just to see how it goes. You happen to tune in for that.
Yeah.
So maybe better that than watching the worst attempt I ever had, that actually ended up succeeding, of going near the mun.
Well, sometimes I've mentioned in the past that I enjoy watching Twitch TV sometimes.
Yeah. And
you'll see somebody will have a stream going on Kerbal, and you'll click in, and and it's an hour of them building a rocket. Mm-hmm. And that really puts the endurance, your tolerance to the test.
Yeah.
Because after a while it's just he's putting another strut on.
Yeah. It's like, oh, do you want 4 of those or you want 3 of those?
Yeah. So, it's like I want to see death-defying daredevil stuff.
Yeah. So my channel, tuning into what I'm doing can be pretty entertaining at times.
Yeah.
Especially whenever I get frustrated. I'm like, I'm just going to build something dumb. And keep build something dumb and just keep reverting and just doing whatever.
I've never had this experience before, but now that Steam has it where you can watch other people play, when I play, a lot of times people will tune in and watch, and I'll have chat windows going and things like that, and it's fun.
Yeah,
I have to say, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And also, you get these unexpected moments of hilarity. I told you that with, now that I've put Deadly Reentry and Far as part of the game.
Yeah.
The now known as the Kettlewell mode. I've been working my way back out, and I went to Duna, and I had actually 2 people were watching me. And, Duna has its own atmosphere. And so the lander that I took had parachutes on it. But it doesn't have an atmosphere like Eve does. So I underestimated how effective, or I should say I overestimated how effective the parachutes would be.
Yeah.
So here I am barreling down at the surface, right? And I'm thinking, no problem, because I'm going to pop my parachutes and it's going to slow me down. And so I'm just barreling down, and I fire off the chutes, and I'm still just barreling down, and I'm going, oops. So I hit the Z key in full throttle.
Yeah.
Just plow right into the Duna surface, just this huge explosion. And the people that were watching me, who had been absolutely silent up to this point, one of them pops up and he goes, "Total F9, dude."
How many people have you had watch you at once?
I've two. Usually it's one.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, but and that gets me into our part of our coming up in today's program. You remember I said giving Northstar a heart attack?
Yeah. Well, all right, lay it on me. Mine's over.
I have always suspected that if somebody who really truly knew what they were doing ever watched me, they would have a heart attack.
Yeah.
I now have firm evidence that this is true. And the listeners know, Northstar is an extremely intelligent individual. He understands this stuff on the subatomic level, right? And I was doing a mission. I already had, you remember I had talked about the train concept where you put like basically an engine in space and then you put fuel cars.
Like little cars.
Yeah. Well, I already had the engine part in space, and now I was sending up a fuel car. And what I do to get the engine in space, generally I use most of the fuel in it. So the first thing I have to do is I have to send up a tanker to refuel the engine. And then I start sending up the fuel cars to go with it, right? Well, I started up the game, and I got this request. Northstar would like to watch. Yeah. And what I was doing was I was sending up a tanker, okay? And when I'm playing the game, okay, I get tunnel vision. I don't always see, like when people are chatting and things, I don't always see what they're saying, especially if I'm really focused on what I'm doing. So I launch, right? And Northstar is saying things to me, and I'm not seeing it, okay? Because I'm launching my tanker and I'm getting it up in orbit.
You're focused on like it pops up at the top left. But like you're kind of just focusing on what you're doing.
Yeah, it's like I don't even see it.
Yeah,
but I get up into orbit and I see the very first one that he sends to me, and he basically says, he's saying, hey, listen, it's. At the angle you're at, basically, it's going to take you a long time.
Yeah.
Your target is, way ahead of you. And I was like, and I wrote him back and I said, I'm still establishing my orbit. I haven't set up what I'm going to do yet.
Yeah.
And then I went back to what I was doing. Okay. And then after a little while, I see another thing come up from him, and he's basically going, wow, that's a really big rocket you've got there. Why is it so big? And it's a tanker. It's meant to be big because it's carrying a lot of fuel. And then I go through the whole rendezvous thing, and the two connect. And I see up at the top, it says Northstar. Wow, that's impressive, Biff. And I was like, oh, well, gee, thanks. And then he says, okay, your engine stage is really big. Why is that so big? And I said, well, I use that to go to like Duna and whatever, blah, blah, blah. And so I transfer all my fuel and everything, and I get done and I'm thinking, I'm gonna go ahead and exit out of the game, and I'm gonna say to Northstar, hey, listen, I would really like to watch you play because I know that, you really know the game, and I would like to watch you and pick up some pointers.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So I exit out of the game, and that's when the chat window comes up. And that's when I see that I got maybe 1 out of every 5 chat messages.
Oh.
And so I start scrolling.
Yeah.
And I realize, oh my God. I wrote these down.
Yeah.
When I launched, Northstar said, you should really be pitching over more sharply earlier. Staying at 45 degrees like that makes for a very inefficient ascent. I got into orbit. Northstar said, oh, this is going to take a long time to phase into position. You might as well time warp. Followed by, you've got to get the craft in the lower orbit ahead of the one in the higher orbit. Followed by, this is, all caps, by far, one of the biggest rockets I've ever seen. And that's where I said, well, it's a tanker, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Followed by, you're trying to phase with an elliptical orbit? This is going to take forever. So now I begin my rendezvous. And understand now, I'm not seeing any of this.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay? This is what he writes. He says, well, this is a different way of doing rendezvous. Fairly slow and rather inefficient like your rocket ascent, but it works.
Yeah.
Might be more similar to the way NASA does it, though. They do tend to be fairly cautious when doing rendezvous. And then my favorite. Geez, Biff, just turn up the time warp. Then we get, so why did you send up this monstrosity of a tanker anyway? And this is still during the rendezvous, okay?
Yeah.
Quote, Biff, if you don't turn retrograde, this is not going to end well. After I get them docked, I get all caps, my goodness, Biff. If that's the fuel module and engine section for an interplanetary transfer vehicle, do you realize how much extra mass you're carrying?
Oh, he called you fat.
Yeah, and then he said, it's very Kerbal in a way, though. It turns out that, you remember I said after I docked, he said, wow, that's impressive.
Uh-huh.
Do you know what he was saying? He was looking at my time in the game, my hour count.
Oh.
He wasn't saying my rendezvous was impressive. He wasn't. He was actually just pulling his hair out watching the rendezvous like, why are you doing it this way? No, what he was looking at was he goes, wow, you've got like, almost 1,200 hours in the game.
Yeah.
That's impressive. And that's all I saw was that's impressive.
You're like, oh, thank you.
Yeah, what I didn't realize was it was like, he was just, but the whole time watching me, he was just going, no, what are you doing? Why are you doing it that way? And then he was already gone.
Yeah.
When I exited out and I was going to go, hey, let's get together and I want to watch you play. He was already gone. He had already said, well, I got to go do this other game. See ya. And he was gone. And I was like, but.
He's playing Sid Meier's Civilization, I think.
Yeah, he was playing Beyond Earth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he's doing it. I'm not sure how he's doing it, but he's doing it by email.
Oh.
They're doing it like by turns by email.
So like they email him a turn and he does their turn or something?
I guess.
Okay.
I'm not sure how that works.
Yeah, no, I've never done that.
But anyway, he says he's doing a turn-based by email Civ Civ Beyond Earth.
I mean, I know people who've done like Dungeons and Dragons games like that.
Yeah.
Like where they just do it by email or
I'm not sure
post.
how you would do that by email, but he says that's how he's doing it.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Anyway.
Yeah.
But I now have absolute proof that somebody who really knows what they're doing, if they ever watched me, would have a heart attack. And these are only a few of what he wrote.
Yeah.
Most of it was just this long stream of no. But anyway, but he was right. For example, he was talking about pitching over earlier and sooner, same word, yay. Yeah. But so I immediately went back and did an ascent the way he was talking about, and he's right, it is more efficient.
So, like, how's it different?
Well, it's what he was saying, because do you remember a long time ago, somebody had asked us, how do you do the ascent? And you and I both said, we go straight up into space, and then we pitch over to 90 degrees, and we do our orbit.
Yeah, no,
and that unleashed a torrent of letters going, you fools!
Yeah.
Right. So since then, I've been doing what had been said to us, which was I go up to about 5,000. And that's when I pitch over to about 45 degrees. And from there, I wait until I get my apoapsis, anywhere above 70.
Yeah.
Okay. Once I get above, and then I kill the engines and I ride to the top of the apoapsis, and that's when I circularize my orbit.
Yeah.
And typically I'll go up to about 120 because that's when you can, once you get up there, that's when you can really engage your time warp. Mm-hmm. But that's how I've been doing it. That's kind of the way the listeners had recommended. Initially they were saying go up to about 10,000 and start your pitch over. But some other people had said you can actually start it at 5. You just have to be much more careful.
Yeah.
And also now that I'm doing FAR, I'm having to be a lot more cautious about my throttle because wind resistance gets to be a real issue now. If you start, I've noticed, I've been watching my thrust to weight ratio with Kerbal Engineer. If you get anything over, this is not a hard fast rule, but my experience has been if I start going more than 2 thrust to weight ratio, in other words, 2 times, that's when I start running into trouble.
Yeah.
That's when I start getting, flames, re-entry flames, except on the way up.
Yeah.
That's when I start getting a lot of wind resistance. So I've kind of, you have to really nurse that throttle up a lot more. And also, the other thing is that, depending on how balanced your craft is, when you start to pitch over, if you're not careful, it will continue to pitch over even when you don't want it to. Mm-hmm. And pretty soon you're pointing straight at the ground, which, is kind of a problem when you're trying to go in the opposite direction. But anyway, what he was saying basically was, and I understand now, I'm going off of the one thing that he wrote. So I'm not trying to put words in his mouth. I don't know if I'm accurately doing it the way he was saying. But what I do is based on what he said, once I'm clear of the launch pad, I pitch over just a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then by the time I get, as I go up, I steadily increase my angle, my tilt angle. And by the time I actually do, I'm almost at 75, 80 degrees before I'm even out of the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And so what happens is by the time I reach my apoapsis, I've almost completely circularized my orbit anyway. I still haven't, I still have a negative periapsis, but I'm using the same amount of fuel. But by the time I get to the top of my apoapsis, I've almost completed my orbit already. Whereas before, I would use the same amount of fuel to get to the top of my apoapsis and then have to circularize the orbit, i.e. burn up a lot more fuel.
Yeah.
So he's right. Pitch over more sharply earlier and, and kind of carefully ride it up.
So,
and I'm still experimenting with it because I've done it, I did it one time and it was just, it was bulletproof efficient. Mm-hmm. And then I did it the next time and it was like, most of the trip was flames were coming off the, the tip of the ship and, and it was like my ascent was, it took me forever. I had almost completely dry tanks by the time I got to 70 on the apoapsis. Mm-hmm. And it was like, okay, well, this is obviously not efficient. So, but anyway, so you had a question.
At what altitude did you start pitching over?
I almost right off the launch. But when I say that, I mean just barely.
Yeah.
Just barely.
Okay.
I have tried to pitch over almost from the very beginning, and if you pitch over too much, that's when you find yourself pointed at the ground.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Again, my experience, as I've said repeatedly, I'm not the most expert player. I'm still learning. And I'm obviously a better player now than I was when we started the podcast.
Yeah.
The listenership has a lot to do with that.
Me too.
But
Not me. I've become a better player since I started.
Yeah.
Not
but you started with the podcast.
So.
But there's varying degrees of, obviously everybody who plays this game has a different level of experience. I've had people watch me when I'm doing a rendezvous, and they don't know how to rendezvous, and so they watch me do it, and they go, oh, okay, now I get it.
Yeah.
Whereas Northstar's watching me do a rendezvous, and he's going, why are you doing it that way? There's a much more efficient way to do it. Well, obviously, he is so far ahead of me in terms of experience. So, that's the nice thing about being able to watch each other on Steam is, you never know what experience level you're going to get.
Yeah.
And like, for example, with Northstar watched me. And I mean, I was laughing at the fact that the chat window was just him having this sustained heart attack. But the fact is a lot of what he was talking about, I was able to go back and apply and actually learn something out of it. I played it for comedy, but I actually learned something out of it.
Yeah.
And then I've had people watch me and they've learned something from it. Rendezvous is one of those things that I'm rendezvousing the way that I figured it out. And as I go on, I suspect my rendezvous style will change over time as it gets more efficient.
Yeah.
What I'm doing right now is what I figured out. And you remember I've said in the past, part of the difficulty of teaching rendezvous is there's a certain amount of feel involved. You have to have, there's kind of a, you feel your way through it to some extent. That's kind of where I'm at. I have a feeling that if Northstar were to teach you how to rendezvous, he could sit down and explain to you exactly a very efficient and a very specific step-by-step way of doing it.
Yeah.
Whereas I tend to do it more by feel. It's more of, okay, I'm here, my target is there, therefore I kind of sense that I need to do this and then whatever.
Yeah.
And as he put it, he said this is my style is more like how NASA does it apparently. He says, they tend to be more cautious. So I'm at least at NASA level rendezvous.
At least.
So
I'm okay. I just do the same way NASA does.
I'll give myself at least that much credit.
Yeah.
But my progress so far, let's see. I gave Northstar a heart attack. I have been to Duna and back.
Oh, good.
Also, I did a mission where I went from Kerbin to the Mun, landed, came back, rendezvoused, went from the Mun to Minmus, landed, came back, rendezvoused, and then back to Kerbin. So I did a complete tour of the Kerbin system, Kerbin and its two moons, with one ship and one lander.
Yeah.
So, and that was kind of fun. I've never done I usually go straight to the Mun and back or straight to Minmus and back. I've never done, Mun, Minmus and back. But that brought up a question I was curious about. Obviously, Earth, we have one moon.
Yeah.
The moon. I wonder, in the future, like, for example, let's say someday when we're living on Mars, Mars has more than one moon.
Yeah.
I wonder, if we ever went from, like, Mars to one of the moons and then one of the other moons, would we be worried about cross-contamination? Because I thought, I know it's Kerbal and I know it's a game, but I thought to myself, okay, the same lander that touched down on the Mun now touched down on Minmus.
Oh, okay.
Which means I've got like Mun dirt on my landing pads.
Yeah.
And I'm touching down on Minmus.
I could think of that.
Because I know that when the moon missions, the Apollo moon missions, when they came back, they immediately quarantined everybody. they sealed up the moon rocks and everything. It just makes me wonder, in the future, would we worry about things like that?
Yeah, it would be like, oh, we can't hop from moon to moon. You know?
It almost makes me wonder. It'd be like, would they carry a second lander? Would they have like completely different space suits that they had to wear?
Yeah, they hose it off or something before they head over.
Or I don't know. Maybe by then the attitude would be, well, it's all dirt, so who cares?
Yeah.
Although that would throw future geologists crazy.
Like, how's that? Yeah.
Because like centuries later, they'd be on Minmus going, but we've got mun dirt here. Yeah. How did that happen?
Did they ever bump into each other at some point or something?
There'd be the unified Minmus theory.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, that was my thing. The other thing, I want to give a shout out, by the way. I said that I went to Duna and back. Mm-hmm. I discovered, how during the closing credits, we always thank the subreddit Kerbal Academy and Kerbal Space Center. Kerbal Space Program. Kerbal Academy, on the right side of the screen, has several links. Mm-hmm. And one of them is the transfer calculator. And I had never used that before. I told you I do a lot of this by feel. A lot of this is just simply self-taught.
Yeah.
Well, I was cruising through the Kerbal Academy subreddit, and I noticed that long list of links on the side, and I clicked on transfer, and it was already set to Kerbin to Duna transfer. And I thought, well, that's what I'm about to do.
Yeah, that's convenient.
So I clicked on it, and it showed me exactly the angle that the two planets need to be in to make an efficient transfer. And then it shows you the angle that you need to eject, that you need to leave Kerbin from. And so using that just kind of as just kind of eyeballing the angles from the calculator, I was able to make just literally a straight shot.
Yeah.
From Kerbin to Duna.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would today, you use a lot of times you use analog clock face as a way of explaining angles. Mm-hmm. Now that everything's digital, how do you explain that to anybody?
What slice of the pizza it is?
Yeah, well, that's true.
Like when you open the box, is it the top slice?
Yeah.
Or is it, like a quarter of the way through?
Well, to use the analog clock face, if you want to make a Kerbin to Duna transfer, according to the transfer calculator on Kerbal Academy, the subreddit, Duna at 3 o'clock, okay?
Pizza slice 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait till you explain where Kerbin is. Kerbin at about 5:30. Now, what slice would that be?
That is slice...
wouldn't that be in the middle of the sixth slice?
Actually, there's it's usually cut into 8 pieces.
Okay.
So 5:30 would be slice 4 and a half.
A really thin slice.
Well, no, it's not. No, you'd be into your 4th slice, halfway into your 4th slice.
What's that joke? Do you want me to cut the pizza into 4 slices? No, cut it into 8. I'm not that hungry.
Oh yeah.
But anyways, yeah. So anyway, but yeah, it's really cool. The transfer calculator, I'm giving a shout out because it really did make, that it's about what I would estimate on my own.
Yeah.
But it was nice to be able to calculate it and actually see it. And
it's also like a confirmation, like it affirms that you were right in your assumptions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And also the other thing that helped me was I'm real good at transferring from an inner body to an outer body. Mm-hmm. I still haven't developed the feel to transfer from an outer body to an inner body easily. Mm-hmm. So when it was time to leave Duna and go back to Kerbin, I went back to the transfer calculator and it showed me exactly how to do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, because I'm just, I'm so used to going out, going from like Kerbin to Duna or Kerbin to Jewel. To me, that makes so much sense because, you want to be behind, obviously it's the same orbital principle with Rendezvous. if the planet that you're on and the planet that you want to go to is further out, you want the planet that you're on to be further back and lower. Well, that makes sense. But then if you're on an outer planet and you want to go to an inner planet, then it's like, it's the same principle, but it's kind of reversed. Mm-hmm. And your exit angle is different as well. Whereas Kerbin to Duna, you exit in the direction of the orbit. Duna to Kerbin, you exit in the direction contrary, you counter orbit.
Yeah.
Counter orbital. Is that a word?
Counter orbital.
Yeah. The other thing, I'm going to put a link to this, and this is something else I got off of Kerbal Academy. So they're getting all kinds of shout outs.
Yeah.
Somebody posted a delta V chart, and it shows how much delta V you need to get from the surface of any planet to like 100-kilometer orbit. And for Eve, it's like, I think they said it's like 12,000 delta V. And I have managed to build. Oh, look at you! You're drawing a pizza.
I'm figuring this out. I'm going to make this work.
You're going to try and figure it out.
Yeah.
But for Eve, if I remember correctly, they said that it takes 12,000 delta V to get from the surface to I want to say 100-kilometer orbit. And I have managed to build a lander that has like 9,000 delta V, but I can't for some reason get that last 3,000, but I'm still working on it. But anyway, so I'm going to put a link to that up. But definitely, there's a lot of really cool links on Kerbal Academy and the front page. Well, that does it for our progress, so we're going to go ahead and move on, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
And now your letters and the latest news in the mission briefing.
Well, guess what, folks? Kerbal is no longer a boys' club. We have a news article, and Nas is going to read the article itself. This comes from PCGamesN.com. Yeah, and the title of it is Kerbal Space Program Soon to Train Lady Astronauts. Take it away, Nas.
In a giant leap for Kerbal kind, Kerbal Space Program is opening its doors and airlocks to Kerbals with a different set of chromosomes. Yes, Kerbal Space Program is getting its very first female scientist, Valentina Kerman. Revealed on the Kerbal Space Program blog, Valentina was shown off taking a break from what looks like some kind of pod shuttle. She looks pretty friendly, doesn't she? I bet you all can't wait to send her into space on one of your inevitable disasters of a mission. Just a first look is all we have for now. Hopefully news of when Valentina will appear in-game will break atmosphere very soon.
This appeared on the Kerbal Space Program website. It looks like they have finalized the artwork for what Valentina is going to look like. Based on the tweets, I thought she was going to get added to the game by now, but so far I haven't seen her. I think she is. I think the plan is still she's going to be part of 1.0.
Yeah, I could see that.
So, but the reason that her name is Valentina Kerman, this is a little bit of space history. The very first woman in space, her name is Valentina Vladimirovna Tereshkova, still alive.
Oh, wow.
She will be on March the 16th.
Yeah.
March the 6th. She will be 78 years old.
Oh, awesome.
I went to Wikipedia, and very quickly, her biography. Valentina Tereshkova is a retired Soviet cosmonaut and engineer, and the first woman to have flown in space, having been selected from more than 400 applicants and 5 finalists to pilot Vostok 6 on June the 16th, 1963. In order to join the cosmonaut corps, Tereshkova was only honorarily inducted into the Soviet Air Force, and thus she also became the first civilian to fly in space. After the flight of Yuri Gagarin in 1961, Sergei Korolyov, the chief Soviet rocket engineer, came up with the idea of putting a woman in space. On February the 16th, 1962, Valentina Tereshkova was selected to join the female cosmonaut corps. Before her recruitment as a cosmonaut, Tereshkova was a textile factory assembly worker and an amateur skydiver, which was important because, are you ready for the qualifications? They had to be parachutists, under 30 years of age, under 5 feet 7 inches tall, and under 154 pounds in weight. The Apollo, the American,
none of those things.
The American space program had similar requirements. Obviously you had to be qualified, but you also had to fit certain size requirements.
Yeah, it's like the Air Force for if like all these people are like, oh yeah, I saw Top Gun, I want to go fly jets, and so like, well, actually, if you're too tall or if you weigh too much,
you're 6'5".
Yeah, it's like
we're not jamming you in that little cockpit there. Well, I told you when I saw Liberty Bell in a museum after they pulled it off the floor, the ocean floor, the Gus Grissom's. I mean, there was like maybe an inch or two from his arms and the top of his head and everything else to the side of the capsule.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I mean they jammed you in there. There wasn't much space to like scratch your nose or anything. Although Tereshkova experienced nausea and physical discomfort for much of the flight, she orbited the Earth 48 times and spent almost 3 days in space. With a single flight, she logged more flight time than the combined times of all American astronauts who had flown before that date. After dissolution of the first group of female cosmonauts in 1969, she became a prominent member of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, holding various political offices. She remained politically active following the collapse of the Soviet Union and is still referred to as a heroine in post-Soviet Russia. Are you ready?
Yeah.
In 2013, she offered to go on a one-way trip to Mars if the opportunity arose. At the opening ceremony of the 2014 Winter Olympics, she was a flag carrier of the Olympic flag. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it's so cool.
Do you know what I think? I think Squad, when they do roll out 1.0, she should be part of it.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Can you imagine that phone call?
Yeah.
And be like, hi, there's these little green things.
And we named one after you.
And we put them in space, and we named one after you.
Yeah.
Could you come here? Because we're gonna announce an update for a video game.
Yeah.
And it should be like, this is a joke, right? You guys are kidding. No, seriously, but wouldn't that be cool if she was part of the 1.0 rollout? She is still very active. She is, at age, I guess, what would she have been, 76 at that point? Yeah, she was like, yeah, send me to Mars.
Might as well.
Anyway, so that's a little history. The first female Kerbalnaut in the game is named after the first woman in orbit. And I think that's cool.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I think that's a nice little nod to history. Well, let's get to our letters. And you have got the first one.
This one's from Misha. First of all, Brisbane is not pronounced Brisbane, let alone Brisbane. Although you may have started something there. Had a good chuckle since one of our politicians was trying to turn Queensland into the smart state at some point. Anyway, the correct pronunciation is Brisbane.
Yeah,
or
Brisbane.
as locals would say, Brissy or Brisvegas.
Okay, here's my question.
Yes.
Briss Vegas? It has nothing to do with foreskins, right?
I'm not going into it.
Because, if you think about it, the slogan for Las Vegas is what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Yeah.
Okay, if you had your Briss in Vegas, technically what happened would stay there, right? I mean, because you wouldn't want to take that with you, right?
I don't want to take this any further. I know that.
I don't blame you.
Secondly, that's an awesome idea of having some contracts being intrinsic milestones or achievements. Although the question would be, if they were not posted as contracts, how would the player even know that they could be achieved? The early altitude ones are trivial, but how would the player discover later achievements? Still, great idea to explore.
And whose idea was that?
It was mine.
It was yours.
It was mine. Regarding the 1.0 release, initially I was totally on the no way it's not ready bandwagon. There's so much that needs polishing in the existing content, quite apart from the several major new features being introduced, that I couldn't imagine the 1.0 release to be anywhere near what a finished game should be. That was with the assumption that Squad is releasing updates as always. I've always been with KSP since 0.23.5, so not really all that long, but 0.24 came quite quickly and 0.25 wasn't that far behind. 0.90 took a bit longer, and I think that may already mark the change of their development model.
Isn't that... You and I started at 23.5, didn't we?
I think it was 23. It may have been 22.
Because I know we talked about 0.24 and
Yeah,
0.25.
yeah. Whenever they introduced 0.24 and introduced all the different stuff. So
that's about where we were.
Yeah, we were in it for a little while when we started the podcast. I mean, you were in before that.
Yeah. I can't remember. I don't remember how long.
I think 16.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And that's when the lightning bolt struck me. Biff, you must do a podcast.
Yeah. If you podcast it, some will listen.
Although they may not be happy about it.
So in standard development, you traditionally have a couple of cycles: development, alpha, beta, release, maintenance, and during development you're churning quickly, adding, removing features and bugs, and basically it's very, very unstable. Not really suitable for early access, but more on that later. Alpha would be when you've locked down most of the major features, you're adding minor features, and you're starting to focus on bug fixes and so on. Beta would be when you've locked down pretty much the entire spec, you're feature complete, and you're just tweaking, bug hunting, optimizing, balancing, etc. Release should be pretty much the last beta version with no changes apart from upping the version number and tagging it as such. That is, the last beta build is the first release. After release, you traditionally enter maintenance code, which includes some additional bug fixing, balancing, and maybe even some new minor features or changes which the client has requested since release. Often these days, and especially for early access, it's somewhat different. For EA, you start off in alpha. That is, every build is functional. EA for early access, not Electronic Arts. Not feature complete, not 100% stable, but pretty good and certainly usable. But from one build to the next, you still add major and or minor features, as well as fixing bugs, etc. Mainly concentrating on scope completion, though. However, beta and release should still be the same as above. That is basically a series of bug fixing and optimizing steps. Now, the other major difference between traditional software development and early access is that the former, the public, doesn't get access until it's done. Duh. Again, these days the lines are blurred, or at least it feels like it is whenever you get the latest game, which requires a day zero patch and various further tweaks in the months that follow. But traditionally, release is pretty much 100% complete, optimized, and bug-free, with no further changes or patches expected. Or at least it should be.
Don't you always get that sinking feeling when you get a brand new game on day one?
Yeah, and it's like, hey, we're patching.
And you pop it in, and it's like you spend the next hour watching patch after patch after patch.
Like, oh, here it comes.
You go, oh, no.
Finally, my position change is this. Squad has changed the development mode of KSP from early access to traditional. Instead of churning out new versions of KSP as soon as some feature is mostly complete, they're not only implementing a feature, but also largely polishing it and adding it to the game as mostly complete. They have also built up a larger internal test and QA team, so my guess is that it will take quite a while for 1.0 to be released, and when it is, it will be more akin to a traditional game release. That is pretty much 100% complete, bug-free, and ready to roll, rather than an early access release where rough edges can be expected. AFTW, BBL, acronyms for the win, be back later, Misha.
For the win. Be back later. I should add, by the way, in last week's podcast, I had been sick the week before, and so we were doing 2 weeks' worth of letters. Sometimes I do not understand why this happens, but sometimes Google will group together emails, even if they're not from the same person. They'll start to bunch together. And a couple of them got bunched in with some others. And when I was going through this week and getting everything ready, it was like, oh, Misha had sent like a letter a week ago, and I didn't see it because it got bunched in.
Oh, was it that one?
And so what you just read was he wrote 2 letters, and I took them both and I combined them into one. So that was a 2-for-1.
Yeah.
The next letter is another one that fell through the cracks. And this came from our good friend Run Phil Run. And he said, Biff and Nos, I found a mod today called Part Wizard. I've only used it a bit, but so far it has saved me some headaches when I accidentally offset a part inside a fuel tank or I was messing with a complex station. I felt this mod deserved a shout out. Again, it's called Part Wizard. Also, I got a kick out of the pledge perks you put on your Patreon site. Do you think we'll see any more in the future? Let's see. Our perks are, what is it?
I thought I had to make those, so I just made some.
Well, wasn't one, it'll make you suffer through
Yeah, if you pick any if you donate like a certain amount of money and you pick a YouTube video of anything, I'll watch it,
Yeah.
and then I'll talk about it.
Well, didn't you also, what did you say? You said it had to be under a certain length.
Yeah, I was like, give it 7 minutes or 7 minutes of
Yeah.
a long video or something.
If you want to make NOS suffer, if it's worth, I think, wasn't it $25?
Yeah. We'll put some cheap, funny ones on there.
I think also I'm trying to remember, didn't we also say if you want us to mention a YouTube something, 25?
Yeah, it was
something
like
that.
like 15 or 25, and we'll mention your YouTube channel, and as long as it isn't like your striptease channel or something,
Right.
we'll mention it.
Well, I think, didn't I say in the last one or previous, I said like $50 and Biff will wear pants.
Please give us $50.
Please, we need $50. Let's see. Okay, continuing. This is the letter from Run Phil Run about deadly re-entry. I installed it at about the same time as you, Biff, and some experimenting has taught me to re-enter at a shallow angle and spend as much time in the atmosphere as possible to make the most of the air's drag forces. Yeah, he's, you remember I talked about this before. I've discovered now with deadly re-entry, don't come straight down.
Yeah.
You want to come in at a shallow angle. For some reason, that seems to, the heat shield seems to like that best.
Yeah.
I think it's because, boy, I'm literally just pulling this out of the air. I think it's because when you come in at a shallow angle, I think that optimizes how you're using your heat shield. Because I mean, you're literally flat with the heat shield is literally flat.
Yeah.
With the angle that you're coming in, or I should say, with the direction you're coming in. I have found that with near installed, angling. I don't have near installed. I've got far. Angling the command pod on descent can actually act as a wing-like surface and glide you along. I found this out when it took longer than I expected to reach the ground, and then noticed that my altitude was climbing again. I might have been skipping between the two lower levels of the atmosphere, but interesting nonetheless. I haven't had much success using parachutes, however. Whether or not they deploy is at the mercy of the Kraken. I have a question for you and other listeners using deadly reentry and near or far. When is the minimum pressure setting in the parachute context menu, and how do I set up my chutes to work well on re-entry? Thanks. Great show as always, and fly safe. That's a question the listeners are going to have to answer, because I was under the impression that wasn't something that I thought that was determined by the game.
Yeah.
Do you actually set that yourself?
For deadly reentry, I think you're asking the wrong person.
No, I'm saying for the chutes, because if you right click on a chute, it has a couple. I didn't realize those were adjustable. I'm learning as we go.
I mean, I know you can cut them and you can try to repack them.
Well, but it shows you what the at what I guess you can. Now that I think about it, I guess you can adjust those. It shows at what altitude and what atmospheric pressure your chutes will pop.
Yeah, will pop.
So let's see. What was his question? What is the minimum pressure setting in the parachute's context menu, and how do I set up my chutes to work well on reentry? I've just been using the default setting. Yeah,
which is like 500 meters above surface. It'll pop. Yeah.
So until now, I was unaware that was something you can adjust. Yeah, if it is impossible, if it is possibly something you can adjust.
Yeah, for deadly reentry, that'd be something nice.
Hey, listeners. If you have any information on this, or if you have any recommendations, please let us know. Is there an optimal setting for the parachutes? One other thing, I was talking about Northstar earlier, and I meant to mention this, but I jumped right over it. Run Phil Run recommends a mod called Part Wizard. Northstar said that there's a mod called Procedural Parts that allows you to custom make parts. Like you can custom make fuel tanks and things like that.
Yeah.
And he says it really helps you with your frame rate. We got tag flapping. Dogs in the background again. He said that what it is a lot of times when you're building a ship of a certain size, you put different pieces together to create it. What he was saying is, rather than stacking fuel tanks to get a certain size, procedural parts, if I understood him correctly, allows you to actually create a tank that size.
Oh, okay.
It allows you to actually create the pieces the size you need.
Yeah.
And that way, when the game is rendering your ship, it's only rendering a few parts as opposed to, it's rendering one tank instead of, say, 4 tanks. Mm-hmm. But you're getting the same capacity and the same size.
Yeah.
So anyway, 2 mods that are being recommended: Part Wizard from Run Fill Run and Procedural Parts from Northstar. And I believe you have the next letter.
Yeah, this is from Josh with Explosions. I don't have the mental capacity to imagine how you two look, but I've tried to imagine what you guys do for a living. Nos, at first I thought you were a security guard in an office building. I don't think I really look intimidating enough to pull that one off. Then, for some odd reason, I thought you were a clown. And I don't mean a circus clown. I thought you were one of those clowns that go to birthday parties and make balloon animals.
You would be like, I can imagine you as a clown.
I think I found my calling.
Yeah. You'd be like, shut up, you stupid kids.
But I've recently come to the conclusion that you are a construction worker. Biff, I think you're retired. Not retarded, retired. Josh with Explosions. I will say that is very close. It's not exactly that, but I do work around those people.
Mm-hmm.
I think
clowns, birthday clowns,
and construction workers.
Okay.
So, that's you'd have to get extremely specific to find anything closer than that. I pretty much work at construction sites, just doing like minor like speaker systems and stuff.
You know what? I think he's onto something.
What? Is he telling me my true calling is to be a clown?
Next time I'm going to get some long balloons. And I'm going to see what kind. I'm going to see if you can make a balloon.
I can do some decent shadow puppets.
You know what? So, I bet it's like genetic. I bet genetically, like if I gave you a long balloon, you could immediately go. Look, it's a poodle.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll have to try it because that'll sound awesome on the podcast.
Yeah. Now, and to answer your question, I am not retired. If I were retired, the length of this podcast would triple.
Yeah. Like I would leave to go off and do something, and it would go on for like 3 or 4 more hours.
Well, we'd have to have a completely separate segment called Biff's Progress.
Yeah. Because you'd be playing like 3 times as much.
And, and the listeners, we would encourage gambling because people would be going, okay, I bet $25 that Nos will fall asleep within the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'll be doing my progress and people will be listening, and in the background when they just start to hear, it's like, I won. Yeah, because my progress, when I'm retired, literally my progress report would be like, okay, Monday morning I got up and I started the game. And then I would recount like the first 6 hours.
Yeah.
And then I had lunch. And then the next 6 hours, then I went to bed. Tuesday morning I got up. And the whole time you'd be... Actually, you know what we could do? We could basically just say, okay, Nos is going to leave now.
Yeah.
And he's going to come back in a couple hours when I'm done with my progress.
Yeah, maybe in a week or 2.
Yeah. So no, I'm not retired. Because if I were retired, there'd be a lot more Kerbal playing.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's see. Oh, I have the next letter, don't I? Okay. This is from Stevie. Hi, Biff and Nos. What I think is going to encourage gambling? People are going to count the number of time dogs' tags start flapping.
Oh yeah, the dog tag count.
Yeah, I need to. I need to do that. Oh, it'll be a drinking game.
Oh, there you go.
It'll be a drinking game. Take a drink every time you hear tags flap. That'll be good. My girlfriend is the one who's she was giving me the
chug.
Yeah,
motion.
the chug motion. I was going.
That's the only way she gets through it is the drinking. So.
Yeah. Well, I was saying that, and she was over there, and she was giving me the chug motion, right? And mentally, I was thinking, okay, she's thirsty.
Yeah.
Drinking game.
Like you backhand someone like Batman.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Biff.
Anytime you hear the tongue, you backhand someone.
That's
like
how I got
Batman.
my name. I got my name. I'm a sound effect in the old Batman TV show. Biff.
Biff. Pow.
So yeah, your name should have been Pow.
Oh yeah. I don't know what the last name would be.
Biff and
All right,
Pow.
go ahead. Stevie has a letter.
Okay, Stevie has a letter. Hi, Biff and Nos. Once again, thanks for an amazing podcast. I'm in the middle of listening to episode 38. With deadly re-entry, if you right-click on a pod, it will show if it contains a built-in heat shield. Do you remember I had the question about about retroactively installing heat shields.
Yeah.
Yeah, it turns out the 3-seater command pod doesn't have a heat shield anyway.
Oh.
So there was no heat shield to rectify. You have to install it yourself.
Oh, okay.
It
I was about
shows
to say,
up.
how do you bring it down, but
yeah, no, it shows up. The funny part about that is, though, do you remember in the last episode I said I had a space station and I had 3 guys on it, and I tried to bring them in with the 3-seater pod, and it kept blowing up.
yeah.
So I sent another 3-seater pod out, and they EVA'd and got into it, and I brought them in. And now I'm going, and I brought them in without a heat shield. I had just assumed that it had retroactively installed a heat shield.
Yeah.
For some reason, even with deadly reentry installed, I brought them home without a heat shield on the command pod. Honestly, that was probably dumb luck more than anything.
Wow.
But the 1-seater, the MK1 pod, has a built-in heat shield. And if you right-click on it, it shows as ablative, and it's like 250. That's the units, and it'll show you as you're burning through the atmosphere. It'll show you the number of units start ticking down.
Yeah.
You know, it's another commodity that you use as you come in.
Yeah, I remember seeing the what's it?
Yes.
Yeah, it was Jiminy.
Okay.
Whenever I saw the Jiminy pod,
okay.
The heat shield on
yeah.
it and all the little pieces, it was just a bunch of little tiny rubber like cones, sort of, that were all just stacked into each other.
But yeah, if you'll go when you're constructing a ship in the VAB, there are multiple sized heat shields. If you have deadly reentry installed, there are multiple sizes. Okay, everyone, take a drink. There are multiple size heat shields that you can install.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
You put like 5 or 6 of them on there.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
That's a question. I wonder if they're stackable.
Yeah.
There's one that is so big that it literally it's bigger than the base of the 3-seater command pod. I was thinking, wow, that it's probably like the most inefficient thing ever.
Yeah.
But it'd be like, well,
yeah.
It's like a saucer for your teacup. Okay, back to the letter from Stevie. This was another thing. Do you remember I mentioned how much I would like to be able to bring up the cheat menu and go to another planet and test out craft? Well, guess what? There's a mod called Hyperedit that allows you to do that. Back to the letter from Stevie. Also, you can test out your designs on other planets and moons with the mod Hyperedit. Sorry if hundreds of people emailed this in. A lot of people did email that in, but you happen to be the first letter we're reading that mentions it.
You got it.
Which, by the way, we will provide a link to Hyperedit. As to my progress, I've been quite busy with life lately. Maxed out the tech tree in 0.90 before everything got too busy. SAT contracts help a lot. Managed to do some rendezvous without maneuver nodes, so I was quite impressed with myself. That's something I have not been able to do, so I'm quite impressed with you yourself as well. Unfortunately, the Australian summer holidays are over now, so back to teaching math to teenagers. You know what makes teaching math to teenagers much more palatable? Birthday clowns.
Oh, yeah.
Get in touch with Nos. He'll show up and do birthday clowns.
Yeah, if you have any,
he'll do balloon animals.
If you have any construction sites nearby.
What you can do is you can go like, okay, one balloon animal and another balloon animal. So how many balloon animals do you have? 2. See, I taught you some math.
A wasted career choice. That's what you have.
I am now imagining you with like giant clown shoes and a big red nose.
I have like size 13 flat foot feet. I already have clown shoes.
To me, I've got like this killer clowns from outer space image in my head.
Oh, okay.
Let's see. He's teaching math to teenagers. I'm trying to think of ways of using KSP to help teach, mostly to have an excuse to play at work. Ooh, that's a good idea. Homer to your mobile. Stevie. P.S. Like many others, I listen to the podcast while driving. And although it's never led to an accident, I was once hit from behind while stationary and had to pause the show while sorting it out. PPS. Thanks for the recommendation of the Space Rocket History podcast. Yeah, 2 podcasts that I recommend. Space Rocket History is a very good one. And for the Star Trek, the Trek fiend in all of us, Mission Log podcast.
Yeah.
I love, it's not funny that he was hit from behind. I'm glad that he's okay. But it is funny that it's like, bam, hang on, I got to pause the show.
Yeah. You bring that up in court. I would like, like restitution for damages. Okay, I mean, did you get injured? No, but I had to stop a podcast I was enjoying.
It was a really good part, too.
Yeah.
One of the few. Okay, anyway, that letter was from Stevie. Thank you very much.
From Romeo, cheating yourself to other planets. Hyperedit exists, and we'll provide a link to that. On the subject of rocket cars, they cannot go very far. You will get about to the hill to the west of the KSC. If you're very lucky, you'll make it up the hill. Then, no matter how lucky you are, you will explode when you hit the ground past that hill. The ground is just way too bumpy to go at such high speeds. I was going at a very slow speed. I was kind of cruising along. But I definitely know what he means, because there was no point, there was not a point I saw where I could go fast for any amount of time.
I wondered about that when you first mentioned rocket cars. I thought for some reason, I just thought that might be difficult.
Yeah.
To go very far. Let's see. Next letter. FIT Orion. You're fired, and possible implementations. Depending on where they set the "you're fired" mark would determine how long you circle the drain. We'll have to wait and see just how bad you have to do and for how long before it activates. Once they added funds and reputation, there was a fail condition to the game. It just requires you to recognize it yourself. Having the game tell you may reduce the time you circle the drain. I also had an idea that makes it less of a game over and more of a choice. They being Squad, could have this dialogue box pop up and give you the option to end the game, start over, or get an infusion of funds and reputation. Maybe tie that last one to successfully going through some of the tutorials. What do you think of that last one? One thing I've wanted since contracts were added: story through linked contracts. Quest chains, in fact. So that's something I've talked about, too.
Yeah.
Like if you get a ship stranded in orbit, then have the rescue contract come up. Tanas, I think a lot of your problems with career are just a lack of experience. Work on your efficiency. From the description of where you are in career and the tech you have available and the number of parts and weight you can build up to, you should be capable of getting to a whole lot of places and completing the very lucrative exploration missions. I wish I could show you the rockets I used to get to Duna and Eve when I was where you are in career. It vexes me when someone is having a problem with something and I don't have the ability to directly help. I, too, dislike part testing, but there is a way around it. You should be able to, at this point, to put a probe with transmitter, solar, and a thermometer, just because, into lower orbit around Kerbin, Mun, Minmus, Duna, and Eve. Once you've done that, I'm assuming he means one for each, right? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Once you've done that, leave them there. Then contracts will pop up, return or transmit science from space around X, accept it, and then just switch to your craft and run the thermometer and transmit. Even if you get no science points for it, it will complete the contract for very easy money. The ability to put a single Kerbal in a pod with power and a transmitter or probe with power and a transmitter and science instrument in orbit of Kerbin, and more so in orbit of the Mun and Minmus, should mark the end of your money problems. What do you think of that?
I had heard that plan of putting the probe or whatever in orbit, and I haven't done it yet. I've been working on the Mun contract, but I think that's what I'm going to do next since I've gotten so many suggestions on it.
Right.
The thing is, a lot of them say thermometer, and I don't know if it's different orbiting Kerbin, but whenever I've been orbiting the Mun, it doesn't let me do anything with.
Yeah, it says you can't take a reading.
Yeah, I can't take a reading in space. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
like I don't know if it's just in space or if it's around an atmospheric body or something.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So I mean, I could easily just do it with a Kerbal and just keep doing crew reports. So I think I may just do that.
Well, don't install the life support mod then.
Yeah.
Because then you can't leave them out there indefinitely.
Yeah, or the boredom mod.
The boredom mod. To Biff, Eve. Oh, and the other thing we should say as far as NOS goes, you don't have access to this game. What, five days out of the week?
Yeah, about 5-6 days of the week.
So you're having some real trouble right now just being able to put some time in. Do you know somebody, when I was on Steam the other day, somebody in a chat window came up and suggested we should start a fundraiser, get NOS a laptop?
I would endlessly appreciate it, but I'm by no means going to start asking people to give money for that.
I know. It was a joke, but I just laughed. I thought, of all the worthy causes out there, right? It's like, get NOS a laptop. Yeah. The problem is that if they actually happened, they would demand access to your camera and microphone at all times.
Yeah, to make sure I was playing. Why isn't he playing?
Yeah,
he's working right now. He's putting together balloon animals.
You'd be asleep, and they'd log in, and they'd see you, and then they'd activate the speakers and go, "Wake up!
Yeah,
play Kerbal." That, or if you were doing something else on the laptop that they disapproved of.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say. To Biff, Eve. The key to land with something. The key is to land with something that could all by itself get into orbit. Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
That's easy. Why didn't I think of that? I'm sorry. Yeah, I've been wrestling with that right there. The key is to land with something that could all by itself get into orbit. Kerbin works as a rough testing ground. Your lander has to be at least capable of getting into orbit from a launch on Kerbin. Overbuilding it just a smidge, and you've got your Eve ascent stage. Then it's a matter of transporting that to Eve and getting it down without using any of the ascent fuel and all that jazz. As for testing in other environments, a mod I've heard of but not used, Hyperedit, allows you to cheat things into existence in orbit, or I think onto the surface of any body in the system you want. Again, we will provide a link to Hyperedit. I play career pretty much exclusively and entirely stock. I use Sandbox to test ideas out before using them in career. I've been playing since, I think, 1.3, oh wow, 1.3 maybe, 1.2 or 1.11, I'm sorry.
Point
12.
Yeah.
What did I say, 1.2?
Yeah, I was like,
wow.
He's way ahead of us.
Squad is like, wait a minute, we didn't release that yet. So 0.13 maybe, 0.12 or 0.11, not sure. There wasn't a map mode or any other bodies than Kerbin and the Mun, and the Mun had just been added. Not even the Sun existed as a body. I am proud to say I managed to get into orbit around the Mun back then. In career now without the upgrade to the tracking station to get patched conics, which show you when you will get an intercept with the SOI. I can almost relive that feeling of blindly flying to where I hope the Mun will be. The new player experience, 95% of the problems my parents have with their computers can be solved within 10 seconds of me right-clicking. Right-click is not as common a skill as those of us who are computer savvy would like to think. Right-click also is not very common in games as a method of interacting with menus. We've talked about that.
Yeah.
The number of times you accidentally right-click on something and go, oh my God, there's a whole menu here that I was totally unaware of. Watching new people play the game, they never even think to right-click on anything. Game mechanics hidden behind right-click might as well not exist as far as new players are concerned. I don't know how to correct this. Part of me wants a PSA to play on every nightly news commercial break all over the country all the time to tell people to remember to try right-clicking whenever they have a problem. But I think that's beyond squad scope. Keep up the good fun. FIT Orion. Can you imagine a commercial like that every night? When in doubt,
click.
Right click.
Right click.
Oh, it would just, you know what it would be? It would be 30 seconds. Right click. Right click. Right click.
All hail right click.
Yeah.
From Tapor, T-A-P-O-R. Biff and NOS. I haven't spent much time in KSP, making sandwich or otherwise, of late, because I'm trying to finish this darned accounting diploma. Well, you got to focus on your priorities.
Yeah.
So you got to make
Kerbal.
Oh, I was going to say sandwich. That said, after your Kettlewell experience, I decided to install Near and Dre.
Deadly Reentry.
Deadly Reentry. You can't forget about Dre.
Yeah.
With rockets,
or Dr. Dre.
I found it easier to get to space compared to stock and haven't killed Jeb on a reentry yet. Space planes, on the other hand, flip, flop, smash. If 1.0 gets this extreme, the new players might have trouble, but I think it will likely get an option at the new game menu like destructible buildings. I'm not investing too much time in 0.90 as I really want to try doing one career until time runs out. I read someplace the KSP save game will go around 230 years. I want to find the end of that rainbow. Scalzi is great and all, but maybe you should check out some Halderman.
Oh, yeah. You remember?
Haldeman.
You remember I was talking about, remember I said Old Man's War?
Yeah.
John Scalzi?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said, no doubt you've read The Forever War.
I have, it's funny that he mentions that. Old Man's War is kind of an updated Starship Troopers, The Forever War.
Yeah.
I've already read Starship Troopers, and after reading Old Man's War, I was reading some of the reviews and whatever, and somebody mentioned The Forever War by Joe Haldeman. So I have that now. I just haven't had a chance to read it. Our library had a sale the other night.
Yeah.
They once a year they sell their overstock, and it's like I think it's 50 cents for paperbacks and $1 for hardbacks.
Man, I see that tower over there.
Yeah. So I mean, it was like I went to the science fiction section, and it was like I just like extended my arm out, and I had a box, and I was just going.
Yeah. Get a wheelbarrow out.
Yeah. I was just like. Everything I could see. So, but yes, I have plenty of Haldeman now, and I'm going to be reading The Forever War soon.
All right. Anyway, I'm jutting out of stuff and need to make the TV work, so I'll chat more later. P.S. Props to the official KSP forum. I joined up this week, and everyone is super friendly. I haven't seen a forum like that since like 2002, if ever. Keep up the good and long podcast, Tapor.
So, is he saying that internet etiquette has gone down since 2002?
No.
I think it's been going down since 1992.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Next letter. This comes from Fail Sauce. Hi, guys. I'm a newish listener, and I'm loving the show. Listening to you talk about Squad's planned Game Over edition, I had a couple of thoughts. Without adding some kind of game over mechanic, players can accidentally work themselves into situations where they simply can't progress. This Kerbal purgatory is no fun and very unfriendly for new players. At the same time, a game over after 20-plus hours of gameplay would be pretty brutal. Everyone take a drink. Thus my idea. The game could continue even after you got fired. When you failed, your little Kerbal would pack his things and a new boss would come in, who you would then control. Your current funds and reputation would reset, contracts canceled, but your scientific and facility progress would remain. The measure of success would be how few managers you'd go through along the way. I'm picturing a wall of managers in one of the facilities where each Kerbal executive would have their portrait up with how long they held the position, successful contracts, and how many Kerbals died under their watch. I'm not sure if this is something Squad is considering, but it seems like the best solution in my mind. Thanks, and keep up the good work on the show. Fail Sauce. That's an interesting idea. That's kind of that's like you're fired light.
Yeah. So this is like, it's kind of like that. I was just playing a board game yesterday. It's called Merchants and Marauders, and you were pirates in like the Caribbean and stuff. And you're sailing around, and you can. I mean, it's called Merchants and Marauders. You could either go and trade goods, or you could be a pirate and you could like shoot down other players and steal their stuff and things like that. Well, you had a captain, and at any time if your captain died, you lost everything that was in your boat. Like you lost all your cargo, you lost all your gold or whatever. And if you didn't have any gold in your stash, like you wouldn't lose gold from there if you had any gold like in your private stash. Well, if you didn't have any there, and if you didn't have anything like period, you would start with a new captain and 10 gold. If you already had some gold in your stash, you would start with a new captain, but not with the gold. But it kept you from being completely stuck. Like, if you already had a couple points that you could win the game with, it just gave you a new captain and said, you're already doing okay, just keep trying.
Right.
If you did pretty poorly and you didn't have any gold stashed, you lost everything, and it said, okay, start over, here's 10 gold, try to get something going again. So it's kind of like that, and it actually worked pretty well in the game. Like, somebody had their ship sunk, and they lost their, they didn't have anything set up yet. So they got basically a clean slate to start over with. And another player had actually been doing pretty well, but they just ran into trouble with the law, got their ship sunk,
right.
And they started over again, but didn't start with that starting bonus.
Question. Let's say that the player that lost everything, when they restart, do they restart against the other players at their experience level?
Yes.
In other words, you're starting over, but you're starting against players that have a lot more experience and resources and progress.
Like they still have all their current progress. Okay. It didn't seem too out of whack though, because basically what you had to do is you had to just avoid those players if they were coming after you, and those players wouldn't come after you because they didn't have a lot to gain because you didn't have anything on your boat.
Because you were so small fry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now anyone who had a totally loaded up boat and had bounties on their heads and gold and crew and stuff, like you'd go after those guys because there's actually a reason to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The reason I asked was I thought, restarting against really powerful.
Yeah, in that situation, that would have stunk.
Yeah. But if there's no incentive to go after you, so and I guess I should make at this point. I mean, we don't really know what the game over mechanic is going to look like.
So I'm interested in seeing it to see what exactly it does and what exactly it means. It just means like, hey, you pretty much can't keep going.
Yeah. So. And I said game over. It's the you're fired mechanic. I mean, we don't know how Squad's going to implement it. For all we know, that's what they're going to do already. They may already have that in place. So, I mean, we'll have to see. It's interesting. We're getting some interesting opinions about it. But we'll see. Let's see. Next letter is for you. You've got the next letter.
Okay, from Tutatis. Hi, Biff and Nos. First, I wanted to say that the podcast is great. I look forward to it coming out each week, and I really appreciate the work you both put into it. Well, thank you. So, Nos, I wanted to tell you that I also came up with something very similar to the Rolly. As such, it is clearly a design that offers unique advantages, similar to how Chameleon and the Cuttlefish both independently evolved camouflage to meet the needs of their environments. I'm not going to say that was my thinking when I made the Rolly, but I would like to say that's the end result.
One thing that just tickles me to death, you are the only Kerbal player that I've ever come across that spends more time on the ground than actually off of it.
We had that interview with Max Maps a long time ago. Yeah. And he was talking about how some guy made a mod for trains, and they're like, well, we're not really going to use that. And I was like, it would be nice if I could build trains.
Well, I'm building trains, but they're in space.
Space trains.
Kerbal Space Program.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, I've always, I've talked about sandbox and things, and, the nice thing about this game is everybody's going to play it differently. Yeah. And, I mean, you have literally made a very unique Kerbal. Because, I mean, you came into it, and it was like, I'm going to make things that roll. I'm going to make things that float and bounce. And, it's like... And I'm going...
Why?
I'm going, okay.
Okay, back to the letter.
Meanwhile, I'm over here on the Mun.
When I built my first Mun rovers, I had an annoying habit of flipping them within minutes of landing. I first tried to build rovers that could turn themselves upright when landing leads attached to their back, but this was extremely fiddly and mostly didn't work at all. In frustration, I took a probe core, added half a dozen batteries so that it formed a long cylinder, flopped it on its side, then covered every available space with wheels. To my surprise, this was incredibly fun to drive. I know. To drive as soon as you turn it, it rolls sideways and I start to giggle uncontrollably. I found nothing was more fun for bombing around the shores of Kerbin or ramping of craters on the Mun. The only thing that stops it is when I ran out of power or too many tires got destroyed by my reckless driving. This also caused one of my friends to remark, I thought KSP was supposed to be serious.
Oh, come on. They're green. They're green. How serious can it be?
I gotta say, like, you really need to, if you haven't yet, build some sort of rolly-like thing and land it on the Mun. Because driving that thing around and doing flips and stuff when you ramp hills it's so much fun.
Do you know what the mental image I got was?
What?
In the Dark Knight and the Dark Knight Rises, the Bat Cycle
Yeah.
has the rotating wheels on it. And when he was talking about that, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Because you know how he can corner on a dime because the wheels spin. Mm-hmm. I don't mean spin.
They rotate.
Yeah, they rotate. Yeah. So anyway, he was talking about that, and I was thinking, wow, he made the Bat Cycle on the Mun.
Eventually, I shelved my Solar Polar Roller Rover. It only took one trip to the poles, but I feel that justifies the same. Solar Polar Roller Rover. I got it right the first time.
Say it again.
Solar Polar Roller Rover.
Say it again.
Solar Polar Roller Rover. For the sake of
Say it backwards.
For the Rover Roller Polar Solar. For the sake of the audience, we're going to continue the letter. But after hearing about your exploits, I came back to it. I realized that by adding a crew capsule and some nuclear radiothermal generators, it could run forever. Further refinements added air intakes, which, due to their weird interaction with water in the game, allowed this insane creation to travel on water like some sort of monstrous nightmare water wheel. I am quite proud of this, as this is the most stupid thing I've ever created. And Biff, after hearing about your troubles with Eve, and as you seem to be unable to break up with her, I thought I might give some relationship advice. Essentially, Eve is hard, and I think you're trying to run before you walk. The rocket you've described, with a capacity of up to 4 crew and a hitchhiker unit, sounds huge. I try to land just a probe core and return it at first. Then a probe core and some science, and finally a manned, or should I say Kerbal, ship with capacity for 1 crew member. This should let you build experience in a much more organic way.
Now, the reason that I have a hitchhiker container, but there's nobody in it.
Yeah.
I have a hitchhiker container on the bottom.
So you don't have to use the ladders.
Yeah, because I have had, anyone who's listened to this podcast knows I have the worst luck with ladders. When I did, I told you I went to Kerbin, Mun, Minmus, and back last week.
Yeah.
What I did was I landed at the top, at a high point on Minmus. And then I walked all the way down to Minmus. Has these areas that look like solidified lava. They're very smooth, and they're kind of darker.
Yeah.
And what I did was I walked down out of the mountains down to one of those things, and it was a long walk. And so I used the EVA jetpack a lot of the way down there, and I finally got to a point where I had to stop using it because I had used more than half of the EVA fuel.
Yeah.
And I knew that getting back was going to be a long process. By the time I got back to the ship, I was completely out of EVA fuel. And take a drink. We got more tag flapping. By the time I got back to the lander, and I started climbing up the ladder, he would get to the top, and then he would fall backwards. And this is on Minmus, for God's sake.
Yeah.
And I could not, if I jumped straight up, he would go straight up and straight down. So what I ended up having to do was I would have to walk. I had to keep experimenting, walking far enough back, and then I would run and jump. And I finally got to where my arc was just right, where I landed on top of it and was able to get into the command pod. But even on Minmus, I'm having trouble getting up and over the lip on ladders.
Wow.
But the reason that I have a hitchhiker container is so that I can do a crew transfer from the pod to the hitchhiker container, step out of it, step onto the surface, then get back into the hitchhiker thing, and then transfer from the hitchhiker container back into the pod. Because ladders do not like me for some reason.
Yeah.
So that's why. I mean, it is a fairly large ship, but it's only got one guy in it. And the only reason the hitchhiker thing is there is otherwise I would be having trouble with ladders. So, anyway.
Okay, he has 2 more tips. Try to consider the atmospheric specific impulse of the engine you're using and the altitude you launch from. Most engines choke on the thick atmosphere of Eve, but aero spikes are designed to work well at all pressure, so will help you get more bang for your buck. And rather than fight through the atmosphere, try to land as high as possible so you don't have as far to go back through the atmosphere. Some even build rockets that are also rovers and drive to a high altitude before launching, gain of all of that altitude for free in terms of fuel. Also, in a situation with as high delta V requirements as launching from Eve, minimizing the mass of your final stage is paramount. Every extra kilo increases the size of the rocket and brings in new problems with aerobraking, landing, and stability. So take back to orbit only what you absolutely need. Again, the rocket you described has a capacity for 4 crew, and if you weren't planning on taking all 4 Kerbals to the surface, then there are other options that are lighter. If you're worried about the welfare of your Kerbals during their stay on the planet, you can always bring a separate living quarters along and leave it on the surface for the next mission to use. If you really want performance, scrap the control cabin entirely and just have Jeb ride in an external control seat like the true rad dude that he is. Doing this and starting from
That's not what he wrote.
I know, but I'm keeping it friendly. Doing this and starting from a high altitude can get you into orbit with a starting mass of around 20 tons, a bit more than half the mass of a single orange tank. Finally, I'd like to comment on the altitude records at the start of the career game. While I agree that the balance of difficulty is definitely off in the early career mode, I disagree with the idea that failing to get every altitude contract is punishing players by not explaining its rules properly. Rather, I think it should be seen as encouraging new players to get just a little bit further than last time. Seasoned players should, however, be provided with enough support from other places that they don't need the funds from this source, and that is not currently the case. Sure, you can try to get each altitude record, but I think trying to do so is like trying to get a perfect run in other games, and that always involves gaming the system somewhat. Perhaps this is one area where having such an active community around the game detracts from it. Anyway, I've rambled on more than long enough. Thanks again for all the hard work. Don't fly angry. Toodalus.
Don't fly angry.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Let's see. Okay, next letter. This is from Matt from Switzerland. Hi, Biff and Nos. Thank you very much for your fun podcast. I just listened to episode 38 of your podcast, and towards the end of the first hour, you mentioned the wish for a test bed to check out those newly designed landers and rovers on different destinations without flying each new design there and find out about that missing fuel line upon arrival. I was working on an Eve lander and return concept and was wishing for 2 possibilities. A, either modify Kerbin's gravity and atmosphere into the same as Eve, or B, have a way to teleport my lander on the surface of my planet of interest. Searching for A in the Kerbal forums led to the recommendation from someone to try B, and using the mod Hyperedit for that. I downloaded and tested the mod a number of times, and I can confirm that it does what it should quite nicely. Actually, some hours ago, I managed to reach Eve orbit with my lander, and there are multiple exclamation points. And there is an emoticon. It is a smiley face with a wink, and there's 2 smiley faces. Well, there's 2 smiles, although that may just be a double chin.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It may be a double chin.
Maybe he's a happy, heavy eater. How to do it. Install the mod, start KSP, design a lander with enough landing legs to hold its weight and RCS to rotate your ship. Click on launch. Use key combo Alt-H. It brings up the main menu of Hyperedit. In the Hyperedit main menu, click on Orbit Editor. Click Select Orbit to edit. Choose Active Vessel. In altitude, type around 5,000 and click Select Body. Select Eve. Don't click on Set yet. In the Hyperedit main menu, click on Ship Lander. Set latitude and longitude to values that correspond to land mass, and set altitude to 200. Now comes the part where you have to be quick. In the Orbit Editor window, click on Set, and once your ship has been moved to Eve, click in the lander window on the radio button labeled Landing to hold your ship in midair and letting it gently fall to the surface with about 1.7 meters per second. Hopefully your RCS is strong enough to turn the ship in time. I found out that the lander legs cannot hold the weight of my lander, and I used the aircraft retractable gear since then. It is amazingly durable, though somehow I think that's not how it was intended. Choose your landing site on Eve carefully. Try to select a very high landing spot to keep the atmosphere that you have to cross on the way up as short as possible. Cheers, Matt from Switzerland. That's cool. Now, not only do we know about the mod, but we know how to use it.
Yeah. From Eric S., Biff and Nos. I'm so glad I found your podcast. The hard work you put into the production of each episode is very much appreciated. Certainly looking forward to many more episodes. Thank you. In your last podcast, you mentioned having a problem testing your designs. I believe you're specifically referencing testing an Eve lander with Ascent craft designs. Have you heard of the Hyperedit Mod? I think we have. It might be exactly what you're looking for. The mod will allow you to teleport your craft anywhere in the system. This will allow you to quickly build and test prototype designs without the overhead of launch vehicles, transfer stages, and associated gameplay time doing interplanetary transfers. Just assemble your prototype in the VAB or spaceplane hangar, launch, and use the mod to whisk you away to all sorts of testing fun. I guess some could say it takes a bit of the fun out of the testing process. I say when confronted with the cruel, cruel, evil mistress that is Eve, any helping hand in the design process is fair game. As with any mod installation, it is always a good idea to back up those saves and game directories before you go messing around. Maybe even go so far as to keep a second copy of KSP solely for design testing, thus keeping your real save file free from any unneeded tinkering. And we'll provide a link to Hyperedit as
we've said repeatedly.
Yeah. Keep up the wonderful broadcasting. Love Amy's A Kerbal Life segment. All my best to everyone involved in making this great podcast. Your friend, Eric S.
Yeah, and I should mention we're very close to the end of our letters, so we're also very close to A Kerbal Life.
Yeah.
It sounds like with Hyperedit, it sounds like what you do, if I understood correctly, it sounds like you literally set the location you want to go to.
Mm-hmm, and it pops you over there.
Well, it sounds like it's really specific, like latitude and longitude.
Mm.
I don't know. We'll find out. Okay, Northstar. We had talked about this earlier. He had sent in a fairly lengthy letter, and I needed some time to work on it to get it down a little bit in length. Well, here it is. This is the letter we were talking about last week. From Northstar. Oh, and by the way, this was written before he watched me play. I have a feeling the next letter I get from him is going to be, Dear Biff, you idiot. So anyway, okay, from Northstar. I wanted to take a moment to highlight some really cool stuff I've been doing related to KSP. Lately, I not only got my mass driver mod up and working for KSP 0.90, I also have been working with the excellent modder coder from the KSP forums, Freethinker, to help deliver new levels of integration between the mods KSP-Interstellar and Real Fuels, and even more awesomely, have worked with Freethinker to expand the KSP-Interstellar mod to allow players to create their own propulsive fluid accumulators. If you don't know what that is, I'll give you the 30-second summary. A propulsive fluid accumulator is a special type of satellite that operates right at the edge of an atmosphere, in the lower part of the atmosphere, in the thermosphere, and serves to collect fuel mass from the edge of the atmosphere. Well, not technically fuel, but gases like carbon dioxide and nitrogen that can be utilized as rocket propellants when combined with a thermal rocket engine. This is a real concept, not science fiction. If you or any of your listeners want to try out this awesome feature, you need to install the KSP-Interstellar 0.90 port and the KSP-Interstellar expansion config, which contains the features that enable propulsive fueled accumulators, and the hope is to eventually get this added to the main 0.90 port and then into the base version of the mod maintained by Fractal UK when it's updated for 0.90 or 1.0, but it's not 100% finished yet, as some small balancing bug-fixing tweaks are still being applied in regular updates before getting it integrated into the main 0.90 port. I help make propulsive fluid accumulators and mass drivers a reality in KSP with mods because I would very much like to see a more widespread awareness of these and other technological possibilities for cheaper space travel, and to see other players and myself recreate these systems on a more routine basis in KSP. Regards, Northstar. I told you, he knows his stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so here's some of the tweets we got this week on @Kerbalcast. @Tanak said, first Duna landing. Now let's see if I can get it back to Kerbin. @Republic of Stars, don't know if you've heard of this. Carbonite, MKS, etc. becoming stock in 1.0. Seems like big news. At This Is Alex Boyd, remap the Steam overlay to Control-Tab to avoid throttling up accidentally.
That would solve that problem.
Yeah. Mitanpo, the moment you feel that you're in space, it's beautiful. Carmescence, LOL, I just realized that Kerbals have managed to land on more celestial bodies than mankind.
That's depressing.
At Pluto Moved On, Nos, as a tabletop game designer, how would you make a KSP game? Board game, cards, pen and paper RPG? I'll answer that one in a second.
Okay.
At Jeb's Junkyard, I found an awesome game on Steam called Moonbase Alpha.
It's free, by the way.
Yeah. At Don't Panic Rob, you could get fired in the original SimCity, but you really had to mess things up. At Top Boom 1, with Deadly Reentry installed, you should find heat shields under the Structure tab in the VAB. The Mark I pod has an integrated one. At Brian81584, maybe KSP should have a way to try recovering or dig deeper by taking out a loan.
Okay, you can answer the question?
For Pluto Moved On, if I was to do it, I wouldn't do a pen and paper RPG because you'd spend most of the time just like drafting things for schematics.
Okay.
If I made a Kerbal game, it would either be a very simplistic card game where you would have different cards that were different parts and you would lay them down on the board to make different parts of your ship for whatever mission you're trying to complete. If it was a board game, then it's kind of hard you have to kind of let go of some certain things. You can't make it scientifically accurate.
Right.
Like there are some things you just have to let go of. And many games that were made for space races, like there was a game called 1969, and it was interesting, but it played the exact same way every time you played it.
Okay.
So now I don't know all the specifics. I haven't really tried making a Kerbal card game. I could I don't know. I'll put that in my thought process, and I'll see if I come up with anything.
Are you saying the reason you would drop a lot of things is because it would basically siphon out the fun factor?
Yeah, because you get so locked into doing details. Like you'll see a lot of times where you'll have games you're making, and you have to actually be okay with leaving out details or being slightly inaccurate for the sake of the game still being good, playable, and interesting. So it's like a lot of people are like, oh, this isn't the full scientific process in operation. You're not actually having to, do anesthesia on the guy you're pulling those things out of. It's like, well, I'm pretty sure if we added that, it wouldn't be the fun little kids game it would be. So yeah, you have to just basically find what is the fun, like where is the fun in KSP, and how can I bring that out in a game? So anytime you try to translate anything into a game, you have to really think about that.
See, what would be hard for me translating this into a board game, the fun for me is flying the ships.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get that in a board game. Now, if you enjoy playing KSP, like with the career building aspects of it, I could see that going.
There's a lot of potential there for the career mode.
Yeah. But I mean, I enjoy literally the building and the flying and the landing and all that other stuff.
See, the way you would have to approach it is, like there's a game. It's like literally fantasy football. It's called Blood Bowl, and there's the Blood Bowl miniatures game where you're a bunch of like dwarves and elves playing football and like throwing each other around and tackling each other and setting each other on fire, doing all sorts of crazy fantasy stuff.
Right.
Well,
you shall not intercept.
Yeah, they want to make it like a card game. It doesn't really translate all that well. So you have to. What they did is they made Blood Bowl Team Manager, and you're the team manager. So what would probably be better if you made a Kerbal card game or a board game? You'd probably be like a facility manager of the Kerbal space program, and so you would try to prep things for launch or build ships and. See how it turned out. Yeah, but yeah, it's a fun thought.
Yeah,
like I made like a small Minecraft game one time, like a little Minecraft board game one time. Yeah, it was just, like somebody asked, like, do you think you could do that? And I was like, oh yeah. So I drafted and we play tested like a small Minecraft game, and then I made a card game too that I just had in the pre-planning phase, but I never actually made a prototype.
How? Okay, I'm so baffled. How could you? Because I mean, Minecraft to me is building.
Yeah, so you basically take a task in Minecraft and you do that. We're getting way off, but I'll just make it quick. There's a game that people play in multiplayer Minecraft called Spleef. And the game is like way up in the air. They build a platform of dirt. and everyone runs around with shovels, and you try to dig out the dirt from under the other people to like get them to fall through and fall off the platform. So I made that into a board game.
Okay.
Yeah, and then for the game itself, like I was on a drive back from a convention, just sitting in the car, and somebody a friend kept asking me, "All right, make an idea for a game about this," and he would just point out something, and I'd be like, "Oh, you'd probably do this and this and this." So I made a sort of Minecraft card game, but I never actually prototyped it or play tested it, so there's no telling how it'd be.
It seems to me like a game like Minecraft, a game like Kerbal Space Program, I don't know that you could fully represent them.
Oh, never.
Yeah.
No. If you did, it would be way too long. Like, they made a World of Warcraft board game, and it was hours and hours long, and it was awful.
Oh, wow.
It had some redeeming points to it, but for the most part, you spent hours and hours just, like, not doing much. And, I guess they encapsulated some, like, farming boars and... in World of Warcraft. So
it makes me think of how people always joke about Kerbal Lego.
Yeah.
To me, that would be as close to the actual game. Because you could take all those pieces and you could build your little rocket ships, and then you could hold them up in the air and run around the rim and go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So. Well, speaking of. It's time for A Kerbal Life. Do you want to do the intro?
There's the mods. MechJeb, take a drink. MechJeb showed up, and Rendezvous was not fun.
They were having all kinds of trouble with the Rendezvous.
Never fun. And take a drink. And Kerbal Life.
Okay, let's do it.
History is in the making as the secretive MOD organization stepped in at the KSC to help Mooner 1 to achieve orbital rendezvous around the Mun. Mooner 1 is now docked with Refueler 1, and we now await the separation of Lander 1, so Jebediah and Bob Kerman can finally set foot on the Mun 1. Mission control to Mooner 1. Jeb, we need you to link up with Bob and separate the lander. The administrator really wants both of you down on the Mun today.
Copy that, MC. One question, though.
What's that, Jeb?
Bob is back in the command pod at the back end of the Mooner 1, and I'm in the command pod here with the lander. Both command pods only hold one Kerbal, so how are we both going to get down?
Now, I'm no expert, but I reckon if you go down slow enough, Bob can just hang on to the side, and you'll be fine.
The side of the ship?
Roger that, Jeb. Bob should be there in a moment.
I did wonder what the personal EVA was for. MC, Bob is banged into the window here in the command pod. He's grabbing on for dear life, and his face looks like a mixture of panic and terror with a touch of regret and disbelief.
Copy that, Jeb. Bob?
Yes, MC?
I think now's a good time for you to remember my catchphrase. Hold on tight. Hold on tight. You've got to...
That's a song, MC, not a catchphrase.
Jeb, stand by for go on lander separation.
Standing by. Hey, Jeb, I'm not sure about this. Bob, I'm sure they looked at every angle and judged it to be perfectly safe. But still...
Jeb, you are go for lander separation. Press the blue button now.
Blue button pressed. Lander separated. Wow, that was so much easier than docking.
Okay, Jeb, take her down nice and slow. Remember, you have a passenger.
Throttling retrograde and straightening up. Bob, how's it look out there? Looks good in here too, Bob. Can you believe we're actually going to do this? We're going to set foot on the Mun. Do you want to taste it first or shall I? Okay, if you insist. Mission control, we are on a smooth descent with no more horizontal velocity. We should be touching down on the Mun in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, touchdown. We have landed on the Mun. Repeat, we have landed on the Mun.
All right. Sweet. Congratulations, Jeb. Congratulations, Bob. Now the moment we've all been waiting for. You are clear to exit the command pod and set foot on the Mun.
Copy that, MC. Bob, you can let go now. MC, Bob will set foot on the Mun in a little while. Okay, here I go. I'm climbing down the ladder and... Uh-oh.
Jeb, what's wrong? Is there a problem? Is the Mun dangerous? Did we make a big mistake? Are you out of air?
No, the ladder's just a little too short. I'm gonna jump the rest of the way, MC.
Oh, phew. Copy that, Jeb. You're about to make history.
Here I go, MC. Hold on. Let me get the profound thing the administrator told me to stay out of my pocket. Okay. This is one small jump for...
Jeb, are you down?
Copy that, MC. I am on the lunar surface.
I can't believe I'm MC for this moment. Jeb, always remember that you were the first Kerbal to set foot on the Mun.
Actually, MC, I'm not.
What do you mean you're not? I thought you said you were on the surface of the Mun.
Well, my foot got caught in the bottom rung of the ladder and I got stuck, so I'm upside down with the top of my head touching the surface of the Mun.
Oh, that counts. You did it, Jeb. You're the first Kerbal head on the Mun.
Still not sure about that either, MC.
Oh? And why is that?
Because there's a Kerbal face drawn onto the surface of the Mun and we didn't put it there.
Then, who did?
A Kerbal Life was written by Amy Kettlewell with music by Lee Rosevere. Jebediah Kerman and Kerbal Space Program were created by Squad. The game is available for purchase on Steam or kerbalspaceprogram.com.
Wait a minute. So, Jeb got on the Mun and there was already a...
Yeah, there's like a face there. Is it like... It was a drawn face, though.
Oh, I know what it is.
What was that?
I know what it is.
What?
He needs to look for a blue glow. If it's a smiley face, it's Dr. Manhattan.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah.
That's what it is.
I was about to say if he sees a shadow, that means he's got like 6 months more of funding to acquire.
Kerbal Hog Day.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So there's a face on the Mun.
Where did it come from?
We'll have to wait. You know what it may be? Maybe it's like a leftover Kerbal from an earlier update of the game.
They don't want to talk about it.
There's like some Kerbal up there with like a long beard. I've been up here since update 0.22. Back in 0.22, I remember being on the Mun. I have no idea where I'm going with that. Well, okay. Anyway, thanks to Amy Kettlewell, who provides us with our Kerbal Life. I will be interested to see what the resolution of that one is.
Yeah, yeah.
She's already killed Jeb once. Now we've got a smiley face. Well, I assume it's a smiley face.
Mm-hmm.
She just said there's a face on the Mun, so I'll be curious to see what it is. We have some thanks to toss out, and of course, we thanked Amy for a Kerbal Life. Who else do we want to thank?
We also want to thank our listeners and regular contributors and everyone who sent us letters or tweets.
And I mentioned how helpful Kerbal Academy, the subreddit, has been, and Kerbal Space Program. There really are some neat links. So go to those subreddits, Kerbal Space Program, Kerbal Academy. They've also been kind enough to provide a link to this podcast on their front pages as well.
Music for A Kerbal Life was provided by Lee Rosevere. Find him at freemusicarchive.org/music/Lee_Rosevere. Episode music comes to us from Professor Soap. Look for him on Facebook or at profsoap.com.
And a big thank you, as always, to Ascalon, who posts episodes of Kerbalcast on YouTube each week so that you can read the closed captioning as well. If you would like to get in I hear dogs barking.
I guess you take a shot on that. I don't know.
Okay, if we have a drinking game for tags...
Yeah.
What do you do when you hear dogs barking?
Yeah, you finish your drink. You just
You know what it is? You take all your clothes off and you go outside and run around.
Yeah, do that. But
do that.
But don't mention us in the court case.
Yeah, please don't blame us.
If you want to contact us, but not our warriors, go to kerbalpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter at Kerbalcast.
But not our lawyers. You funny. You can also subscribe to us on iTunes. And thanks to everyone who's been leaving comments. It always makes my day to see comments. All episodes of Kerbalcast can be found at kerbalpodcast.libsyn.com. And as we've talked about, if you want to see, if you're going to have a heart attack, you can find us on Steam. I am Biff Aldrin. He is Nostromo. Be sure and log in and say hi, watch our gameplay. Sometimes we'll show up and watch your gameplay as well.
Oh, also want to say a couple of them have left me chat messages, because I always leave it online.
Yeah, me too.
They'll leave me chat messages, so whenever I log back in, I'll get them. And whenever I come back from being on the road, I have 70 plus unread emails and all these Facebook notifications and all these things from all these different social media things.
Right.
So I'll read them, and I'll instinctively click to close the box without responding. But everyone who's sent me anything saying hey, great job on the podcast or anything like that, I have read them and I do appreciate it. I didn't get back.
I've been trying to get in the habit of setting my status to away.
Yeah.
Anytime I'm actually away. But I don't always do it. Sometimes it'll show that I'm there when I'm not.
Yeah.
So if you say hi and I don't respond, that means you're talking to a lonely laptop. And if it ever answers you, run, because the robot apocalypse has started. If you would like to support Kerbalcast and help us cover the cost, you can donate to us on Patreon.com. Just simply go there and search for Kerbalcast. And that does it for this week's episode, Kerbalcast, episode 39, Equal Opportunity Kerbal. Our command module pilot, CMP, is
Nostromo.
I am your LMP, lunar module pilot, Biff Aldrin. And until next time, happy Kerbaling.